Back inside the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, 12:32 just about here on this Tuesday afternoon, episode number 2. Thank you so much for being with us here on WFAA+. There's been a lot of discussion over the course of the last couple of months about where the Dallas Mavericks may put a new arena. There's been issues with the Dallas Stars. They've gotten crossways at the AAC. There's a lot of controversy surrounding this team, to even completely divorce ourselves from the Luka Doncic conversation, which is a whole other issue, about where they are going to put their new arena. And yesterday, a story hit our air in the 10 o'clock news that included one of our photographers receiving a text message, and the odds against this are kind of astronomical. A story that our Cole Sullivan did about a poll in the field that we think, we're not really sure who put this out there, but maybe Mavs ownership. Let's take a listen to the first portion of this piece, because just the odds of this all is kind of hard to believe.
Stand by.
Ugh, another spam text. That's what WFAA photojournalist Giovanni Garcia thought when Sarah from Clear Insights texted him this survey. But the questions it asks about a new arena for the Dallas Mavericks and testing out using tax money to pay for it sent us on a days-long mystery we still have not figured out.
I read polls for fun and profit.
Vinny Mancillo is a political consultant we called for expertise. A question asking where the Mavs should play after their AAC contract ends caught his attention. The options include Dallas City Hall, the Old Valley View Mall, and, this is new, an unnamed location in Dallas County, but outside Dallas city limits. Remember, the Mavs ownership has the old Texas Stadium site, too.
So that's the first portion of the story, and we will get to more of it here in a second. But just the odds against the fact that Gio, one of our WFA photographers, received this text message. Who did this go to? 1,000 people? And one of those 1,000 is a WFAA employee? There's a scene in The West Wing where something like this happens, where a White House reporter is one of the recipients of a poll question that was about the White House, about the government, and they were all talking. What are the odds against that? How is there not somebody from, again, we don't know who put this out there, whether it was Mavs ownership, somebody from the city of Dallas, somebody else, but whoever put this poll out there must have seen this story last night and went,
Are you kidding
how
me?
did this happen? How?
You call that a situational save in hockey. You're just in the right spot at the right time. That's essentially what just happened.
It's not even him just receiving the text. Think about how many spam messages we all get every day, and we just ignore it, delete it.
Yes.
This is my follow-up.
Immediately send it to Clutter. The fact that the combo of Gio and Cole were like, you know what, we're going to click this potential spam, risk the security of our phone device, all for the sake of a story, and they stumble into this incredible survey that,
somewhere Tegna IT is cringing for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, our IT department is not thrilled about this story, but we are, because it gives us something to kind of, I don't know, feast on a little bit, and I'm sure our viewers are curious about it too, because it not only involves a new arena site, but who's funding it.
Yeah, and that's the next part of the story that we want to get to, cut 22, because part of the poll is how will it be paid for?
He says the survey also tests talking points about using tax dollars to pay for a new arena. If an election were held today, one question asks, would you vote yes in favor or no against a proposition to impose a hotel-motel tax of 2% and a car rental tax of 5% to pay for an arena?
They are really looking at a public-private partnership where the team puts up some number of hundreds of millions of dollars, and the voters will be expected to put up quite a bit of money too.
And now that part of it is not abnormal at all. That's the way that it worked for AT&T Stadium. That's the way that it worked for Globe Life Field. But that is part of what may influence some of the answers to this poll question, because I think a lot of people want to see it still be in Dallas. But those people that are in Dallas are going to have to foot the bill for at least a portion of this thing.
Yeah. I mean, again, you're right. It's not abnormal, but it is odd that the survey's going out now. And
they want to make a decision by July.
Or what? Like the purpose of it? It all seems like there's information that they're trying to gather so that they can frame whatever they frame as this is what voters want.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a gathering opportunity for them to kind of market their proposal.
And so the question is, who is paying for this poll? And as we listen to the final portion of this story, the pollster, the poll expert that Cole and Gio talked to, Vinny Mancillo, had a pretty distinct theory.
It sure feels like the owners of the Mavericks would be behind this.
A spokesperson told us the team does not have anything to share on the matter. Next month, Dallas City Council members are set to debate abandoning the City Hall site, and the Mavs say they want to decide on a new arena location by July in Dallas.
So let's bring in the gentleman that did this story yesterday in accordance with Gio, our photographer, Cole Sullivan. Cole, what prompted you guys to click on this thing in the first place and break IT protocols and break the rules here at Tegna and do this story in the first place?
Yeah, and are you still employed by WFAA?
Technically, yes, although definitely broke the rules on this one. Giovanni and I were sitting in the car, and if you know Gio, he's a rule follower. He'll tell you that. If you know me, I'm less of one. So we got this spam text, and he was complaining about how many he gets. And I was like, wait, this one feels different. He wouldn't let me click on it on his phone. I actually had to forward it to my phone to do it because he really was not enthralled with this idea. And boy, I'm glad I did, because I think these questions tell us more about the future of the Mavs and at least some of the conversation around it than the answers do that we could have given.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating the way that this all played out, and the fact that we now know that this is something that is out there is instructive relative to an organization. And again, we don't know that the Mavs put this out there, but certainly the poll expert that you guys spoke to, Vinny Minchillo, theorized that it was the Mavericks. It makes sense that it would have been the Mavericks. And this is an organization that has been walking through a PR nightmare for the last 15 months. So it kind of makes sense that they'd go, all right, let's see what Dallas thinks about this whole thing before we go anywhere.
And it may not be the Mavericks themselves, right? It may be an organization aligned with them or a consultant that they hired. The spokesperson for the Mavs didn't give us any kind of comment on this. But to your exact point, I've been calling around since this was probably last Wednesday. We clicked on this message and started to see what these survey questions were. And I've been calling around and asking people, who do you think's behind this? Who may have put this in the field? And the answers kind of have been, gosh, this feels like something the city of Dallas should have done 9 months ago, or the Mavs should have done 9 months ago to kind of start this conversation off. And maybe they did, and maybe this is a follow-up, maybe this is additional information, and we're just kind of pulling all the pieces together now. But the conversation around it is definitely about, okay, what talking points might hit, what might work, what might not, as we get not only to picking an arena site, but also paying for it down the line.
We're all kind of nerdy in this regard, that we just kind of love to know the gossip going on behind the scenes. And a survey related to a new site and who's funding it, it's kind of fun stuff for us, because that's not always information we're privy to. But for the person who's just going to work 9 to 5 every day, that's a casual Mavericks fan going to games, why should they care about this survey? How does it impact them at a real level?
Well, I describe myself as a professional gossip. That's what I get paid to do. So that gets to your first part of the question. But the second half, look, this is going to end up affecting down the line not only where the Mavs end up playing, if that's taken into consideration. Obviously, there are a lot of other considerations going on behind the scenes too, like what will be the cost to build at the Valley View site? Will Dallas City Hall? Will City Council vote to leave City Hall? And then do the Mavs get that site? Those are all still questions up in the air. But down the line for Mavs fans, not only is this going to, inform at least some of the conversation from somebody about where this arena goes, but then the question for everybody who lives in Dallas County is what message you're going to hear when it comes time to pay for it. And the survey questions were saying, the city will, the team will kick in hundreds of millions of dollars to help pay for this, but it's going to be a public-private partnership was the wording used. And how would you feel, as you saw in that piece, about increasing the hotel motel tax and the car rental tax to pay for it? And then the survey goes on to test out some kind of different talking points around that. Like, well, what if we say it's only out-of-towners who pay it because it's the hotel and rental car fee? And if you live in Dallas County, you're not likely to pay those fees because you live here. You don't need a hotel or a rental car. And so some of those talking points are going to come back. Potentially some of those experts I talked to said as soon as this November to get a ballot measure on the ballot, which is moving fast. But again, if you look at July is when we want to have this, the Mavs want to have a site selected. Then you want to know how you pay for it pretty quickly after that. So it could be as soon as this November. The other thing that's interesting is this has been a city of Dallas conversation for so long. The Mavs have said they want to stay in the city of Dallas. We've had this whole conversation about, leaving the AAC, the Valley View Mall site, which is still in city limits, City Hall, which is obviously in downtown Dallas. This brings Dallas County in with that question saying, well, what if the Mavs left city limits but stayed in Dallas County, which opens up a possibility of another site we haven't really talked about or considered, potentially the old Texas Stadium. But also, the polling experts I talked to said, look, the amount of money you're going to need to spend on a new stadium means you probably need all of Dallas County to adopt those kinds of tax dollars for hotel, motel, and car rental, not just the city of Dallas. So the conversation spans from Mavs fans, where are we going to play, to city of Dallas, is the team going to stay here, to all of Dallas County saying, are we going to help pay for a new arena?
So real quick, Cole, I want to compare this to the last couple deals that have happened in and around this area, not just Dallas specifically, but Arlington, because this kind of sent me down a rabbit hole last night. If we can pull up VO25, this is funding for the DFW stadiums broken out between public and private funding. And it's increased. When the American Airlines Center first got the funding in '98, it was a $125 million to $295 million public-private. AT&T Stadium obviously was a $1 billion enterprise that was $444 to $600 million, and then Globe Life Field added to that. But you see on each round of that, every time there's a new stadium up, the price keeps increasing for the public consumption. So if you're going to ballpark this, especially given how NBA stadiums are inflating in value at this point, how much burden do you think the taxpayer is going to be on the hook for with this?
That's one thing that we don't know yet, right? Because we don't know the full price tag for the arena, and we also don't know what that breakdown would be. Honestly, this survey or others like it that may be in the field will probably help the team kind of strategize around that, right? If there's no appetite, if people say, look, you traded Luka, I hate the Mavs, I don't want to put $1 towards a new arena for you guys, then maybe they ask for less. And if people are saying, look, it's a hometown team. We want them to stay in the city limits of Dallas. We're willing to demolish City Hall, and we want to build a big, $1 billion entertainment complex there, including an arena. Sure, we'll let the out-of-towners who rent cars at DFW and Love Field pay for this and part of it. So we don't know what the total dollar amount could be, and we also don't know what the breakdown could be. But these survey questions can tip the hat a little bit that taxpayers are going to be asked to chip in at least some, which, as you said, has happened before too.
Cole Sullivan, we appreciate it. Sometimes you follow the rules, sometimes you follow your instincts. In this particular situation, you followed your instincts, and it paid off really well. Thank you so much for joining the show and giving us a little bit of your insight on how this all shakes out. What do we think is going to be the reaction of Dallas? Are a lot of people in exactly the space he just said, you traded Luka, I don't want anything to do with you right now, or are people far enough past it that, no, I want you to still stay in Dallas City proper, and if that means that my tax bill goes up in some form or fashion, hotel taxes, whatever that looks like, I'm okay with it.
There's certainly a faction of fans that are still bitter, and there's a lot that have, quote-unquote, moved on or tried to move on. We just don't know the exact numbers on that. Like, I can't give you an exact percentage on how many are still frustrated and how many are back on the bandwagon.
Hence the poll.
Yeah. Right, and so this might give you more of a data glimpse into really where the fan support is at, which is interesting.
One more step before we move on here. Call up VO24, and I just want to compare what recent NBA stadiums have been. The Thunder have just kind of put the tax burden on the public on their new arena. They're going to fund $850 million of it public and $50 million private. That's obviously an extreme case in this.
That's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous. But the Spurs just got another influx of about $450 million from tax revenue with $500 million private. This is a continuous theme in NBA arenas across the league. There are scant exceptions. You're talking Golden State, you're talking the Clippers, and you're talking Madison Square Garden. Those are privately owned entities and funded that way. But at a minimum, you're probably looking at somewhere in the $500 million range, which would put it Cowboys.
If that doesn't tell you how much the Thunder mean to the state of Oklahoma, that they're willing to foot the bill for all of